So hi Annie, hi Siddharth.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking the time
Our pleasure.
to do this.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's really exciting to hear that now you have 4 outlets of Nutcracker across Mumbai and 2 of Noah.
The second one of Noah still to come up, yes.
Okay.
Another month.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
So 2014, this was the first outlet at Kalakoda?
That's right.
So 10 years.
10 years.
And you've got your 6th outlet coming up.
That's right. Slow. No?
That's not slow. It's not fast, but not
Investment
slow.
banker says slow.
Exactly. No. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you're from finance as well.
Yes, but I don't wear the investment banker hat. He does.
Okay, but if both of you are
6
from
is
finance, then how come the restaurant business?
So, for me, I did finance for a period of 7 years. Post that, jumped into a more operational business role at a garment and design space. But food was always my calling. It was something I was excited about.
Okay.
I always had this dream to open a small little cafe someday, somewhere.
Okay.
But I never went to culinary school, or I didn't really work in the industry. So there was always that big question mark: what if? How?
Okay.
And then I reached this point where everything else didn't seem interesting, and I just needed a break.
Okay.
So I quit what I was doing. Took some time to think about how could this work? Is it even possible? And then I sat around for maybe 6 or 7 months saying yes, no. And I think then the final push came from Siddharth.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was because he was fed up having me at home so much, which was something he wasn't used to.
Okay.
But no, we were equally passionate about the space.
Okay.
And I think he eventually sort of said, just go for it. Let's try. Let's start small.
Okay.
So that we don't burn our fingers if something doesn't go well.
Sure.
But we have to give it a shot. So that's how sort of the first step began, of exploring, and then of course the planning and much more.
Yeah. So Siddharth, how were you involved? What triggered you to encourage her? If you know the restaurant business so well, with so much of investment that you've helped happen in this industry, you've sort of made some of the largest deals in the restaurant business in India happen, and you know what the problems are. Why did you encourage her to do this?
No, I actually know both sides, right? So sure, look, when I worked with many restaurant businesses, helping them raise capital or sell their businesses, I think there were a lot of learnings from that, right? In terms of what a lot of these guys have done right, what they've done wrong. So I felt like there was something that I could use from that experience and apply it to this business. I knew that she was very passionate about the restaurant business. We were all very passionate about food. We were all big foodies as a family. So we figured that, look, given that external experience that I had of seeing other businesses grow in the F&B space, how could we kind of get the model right? So that's why a small restaurant, fewer mistakes. If it works, you can go elsewhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in the heart of an area. We were not in the core of Kalagoda. We kind of got away from the core of heart of Kalagoda.
Yeah.
So the rent was lower.
Sure.
So we kind of put we have an all-day dining space versus just lunch and dinner traffic.
Sure.
So it made sense for us to. So we kind of used some of those learnings from the other companies I'd seen and applied it to this model. And I'd seen many companies do really well as well.
Yes.
So I think there was a lot to learn from kind of how they grew. And we kind of thought we would use it in this business and see where we land.
So you had the secret formula. Where there's none, you had the secret formula.
Yeah, look, I can't say it was a secret formula, but I feel like it was certainly a relevant experience and learnings. I used to spend about a third of my day with different restaurant owners.
Yes.
And I would hear them talk about BKC works or BKC, Bandra doesn't, or it's too competitive in an area.
Yeah.
So the learnings from sort of what other people's failings were, right?
Sure.
If they were spreading themselves too thin, one in Hyderabad, one in Calcutta, one in Bombay, that didn't make sense. So we've only grown in Bombay.
In fact, that answers one of my questions, because there are 2 ways to grow. One is you could have taken Nutcracker pan-India, and the other way is, of course, grow in this geography with other brands, which you've chosen to do. So I understand why you did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, makes sense.
It's right under our nose. These restaurants are in Bombay.
Yes.
As opposed to having one leg here, one leg in another city.
Sure.
Spread yourself too thin. So it made sense to just be in one city as far as we can help it. And if we outgrow Bombay, maybe we'll go to another city.
Yes.
As of now, we're not super aggressive in terms of how fast we want to grow. I mean, I've seen many people who open 50 stores in 10 years.
Exactly.
You open 5 or 6 companies.
And how many of them are really profitable is the question.
Well, a number of them are,
Okay.
and some of them have made mistakes along the way and learned
Okay.
from mistakes. You know?
Okay.
So I have maybe the benefit of having seen those mistakes and hopefully not repeating them.
Sure.
Yeah.
But actually, when you thought of the idea and you came up with this concept, could you speak a little bit about why this concept? Why just eggs? I mean, I understand the Parsi part because my
Yeah.
mom is Parsi,
Oh, okay.
but I didn't. I didn't understand. If you could explain a little why.
Yeah. So, well, when we knew that it had to be small, and I knew that for me it was first a passion-driven project. And what I've always said when I've been asked this question is that it had to be an extension of our personality, what we were. So the fact that it had to be a comfort food place,
Okay.
something that sort of I still feel the way tables of food bring people together over conversations, create memories. That was just something that felt important for me to be able to put out there. And so what the food should be and why it should be, didn't have non-vegetarian and had only eggs
Yeah.
is basically although I'm a Parsi, I have been a vegetarian for almost, I think, 25 years of my life. So
Oh.
before I met Siddharth, a lot
Okay.
of people believe that I became vegetarian
Yeah.
before him.
Yeah.
But the truth is that I've been vegetarian. I was vegetarian 10 years before I even met him.
Oh.
So for me, once again, working with meat was just something I was not comfortable with. It was not my space.
Okay.
Therefore no non-veg. And why the eggs is, I think that part you can't sort of separate a Parsi from their eggs, but also because we at that time thought that a breakfast all day concept is something at the time 10 years ago that didn't exist too much in Mumbai.
Yeah.
People would have breakfast, but they would serve it only till 11. Also, they would have smaller classic things like just an omelette or pancakes or waffles, and it would end there.
Sure.
And so the concept of an all-day breakfast seemed exciting, and then the eggs sort of fitted in well into that as well. And so we said, okay, let's try just doing this vegetarian,
Yeah.
which also gave us a little anxiety because we said, okay, we're not vegetarian, we're not non-vegetarian.
Yes.
We don't want to use the word vegetarian.
Correct.
And so we just went with, breakfast all day, and that's our forte. And that's how sort of the concept grew from there.
That's a wonderful
Yeah.
intersection for the vegetarians and non-vegetarians,
Yeah.
thanks to your background. And you completely vegetarian, you don't have eggs,
I
right?
am Jain.
Okay.
My version of the story, which is just a joke really, is I'm Jain, she's Parsi, so the eggs were a compromise. Right? So,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
that's not the entire truth. She would not have worked with meat regardless.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Okay.
But I'm vegetarian fully. So meat was never something that we would be comfortable doing,
Sure.
even going forward.
No, it's worked well with your target audience. The fact that you've had more demand and that's why you've had to expand proves that you were right in that, and your own personal extension
Yeah.
of these likes and dislikes have worked well with the market. So that's great.
Yeah. And also at that time, what was really important for me was to bring forward something that made people realize that vegetarian food can be fun. It can be inventive, it can be indulgent, it can be healthy, it can be all those things.
Yes.
And till today, I feel happiest when I have a customer that comes in and we still have people that come in that are meat eaters. Till they look at the menu, they don't realize that this place doesn't serve meat, right?
Sure.
And then they're a little fussed about sitting, and then someone has dragged them in, and they're making them sit down for the meal, and so they sort of reconcile to the fact I'm not going to get my chicken and fish today.
Yeah.
And when they leave, the biggest compliment we get is that it's one of the places that we didn't miss the meat. And for me, really, that is a huge sort of tick mark in what we've been trying to do all these years.
Sure.
Also, I feel now in the last few years, people going vegan, vegetarianism is not just in India, globally, obviously, growing in popularity. In Bombay, we've always had people, you have a large percentage of
Yeah.
people, and especially in the area we started in
Sure.
Kalagura, a lot of people that were happy to have a vegetarian place that was not like a classic Udipi or a Thali place, or somewhere that you could have, different cafe style food.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that was also one of the reasons to bring that concept. Like a plant-based menu forward.
No, I can definitely vouch for this as a pure non-vegetarian.
Yeah.
Because the first time when I met Siddharth, I think it was at some event where he was speaking, and after that I connected with him. And he mentioned, that we've just started this place. It had just been a little while after you started. And I happened to be a couple of days later close by here, and I dropped in right here and had it. And I really felt that I didn't really miss non-veg food. I really felt, of course, I had eggs, but I felt really nice at the end of the whole thing. So I quite understand, where that is coming from. And this is a fantastically laid table, and definitely.
The pancakes are one of our
So
classic
sweets
favorites.
are my weakness, and therefore I'm trying to control it, but I'm not able to actually. I've heard about your cookies as well. Is that your bestseller? I mean, what's popular in terms of food? What are the most popular dishes, and how did they come to be?
So, well, we have the Nutcracker classics. So the pancakes, the buttermilk pancakes that are possibly our best sellers, even beyond the 7-layer cookie.
Okay.
So that's, I think, something that has been a hit from the beginning.
Okay.
And we do an eggless version of them as well. And
Okay, so this one is with eggs, is
this
it?
is with eggs,
Okay.
but
May I try it? Yeah. Okay. I'll just.
I think we need to add
Sid will
the
insist.
butter and the maple syrup.
And the maple syrup. Yes, of course. So maybe I'll take a piece. No. That's only my telling myself that. What I'm really doing is different.
You don't want Siddharth serving you because he'll be
Yeah,
loading
like
it
a lot of
all
butter.
the
No. So if you're doing it, you have to do it properly.
Yeah.
And, have it the way it's intended to be.
Correct.
So if that's how the chef has envisioned it, then that's how it must be.
For the pancakes, so I mean, we did so many trials because I had an exact idea in my head how I wanted them.
Okay.
And we changed that recipe, I don't know, 20, 30 times. We went through hundreds of them, to make sure that it was the proper balance of, fluffiness, they were light.
Okay.
All of that before.
No, I absolutely get it. I absolutely understand why it's popular. No question. No question. And what's is that a jam or a?
Yes,
or
so we do various versions. This is a classic that we give with a blueberry jam and maple.
Okay.
And we of course have Nutella because all the kids love it.
Yeah.
We do Belgian chocolate chip ones.
Okay.
We do cookie dough ones, and we do apricot and caramel. So,
Okay.
depending on what you like. So
Wow.
that's one of our most popular ones.
Okay.
Of course, on our egg menu, essentially, like I said, we got known for an all-day breakfast, cafe, and a lot of the preparations of eggs, once again, were a mix of things that, authentic Parsi breakfast dishes like a puri or sari eggs, which I grew up eating, or things that...
So those are also your popular dishes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or like the Turkish eggs, which is something that we tried on a trip to London, and we both fell in love with the concept of Turkish eggs.
Okay.
And we sort of, what I've realized is to give everything your twist is just always nicer and more fun.
Absolutely.
So, that's what we did on that dish. The nutty spaghetti, once again, spaghetti aglio olio is my favorite way to eat a pasta.
Mm-hmm.
I just think pasta, the less you do to it, the more,
Very true.
the better it is. So on this one, it's a classic aglio olio, but we add a little orange zest, a few almond flakes, just to give it that twist.
Yeah.
So essentially, that's what we've always tried to do. The menu is today a translation of things we enjoy eating, we enjoy making, things that we grew up, eating at home, and then we've given them little twists to make them more restaurant-y or more sort of, things that we know customer palates will enjoy.
And Siddharth, do you attack some of these dishes often? Now you're controlling yourself?
I am eating these pretty much every day.
Okay.
I come into the restaurant and I'm always going to try the hummus because I could have hummus for breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Absolutely.
I know that when I walk into the restaurant, I'm going to walk into the kitchen and
Try it
taste
out.
the hummus to make sure that it's okay and as per what I think our standard should be.
Yeah, we don't do it for ourselves. We just do it for our customers.
Yeah, I'm happy to be the guinea pig of the trials. I'm happy to be, trying whatever they're coming up with. And obviously, I think what an interesting story is, I think we only sell what we like.
Yes.
And in fact, we only sell what she likes.
Okay.
Because, for example, if she hates bananas,
Yeah.
you will not find banana dishes on our menu.
We
Not
have one drink.
one
Okay.
drink with a banana, but that was like
Okay.
someone forced her to put it on. Yeah, but nothing that we sell here, nothing that we serve here is going to be something that we don't enjoy.
Sure.
So naturally, I kind of am always
Well, that's a
ordering
nice-
in or coming in and having
That's a nice
some-
I don't
approach.
know if it's nice, but I
Well, from a business point of view,
it
yeah, it depends on what the consumers want, but clearly they're loving what you have, and I can understand.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. It's really nice and fluffy. The texture, you've probably folded in the beaten eggs afterwards to get that nice
And the buttermilk
fluffiness.
basically gives it that
Yeah,
tangy
it
vibe.
does.
Yeah.
So I completely get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So besides the food, how about the service and the ambience? What kind of what were you thinking? How have you planned the ambience of the space? And also tell us a little bit about your team, about the service.
Yeah. So, well, the ambience, once again, it all had to fit into the story of comfort. When we opened the first place, and one thing that you will probably notice is that each Nutcracker is a little different.
Yeah.
And we've tried to keep certain underlying design elements the same, but for me, the place had to seem non-pretentious, easy, somewhere you can come in with shorts and not feel like,
Yeah.
And also the design of each place had to reflect a little bit the space that it's in.
Okay.
So, for example, Kala Ghoda, which is one of the oldest parts of Bombay, known for the courts and the nearby stuff like that. We wanted to stick to these handmade tiles, the printed sort of tiles.
Yeah, I noticed that. It has a very homely feel to it.
The wooden shutters, the glass, stuff that you would typically catch in old Bombay style.
Yes.
Offices.
Yes.
Then in Bandra, we sort of carried forward some of those elements, but we wanted, we had an open space there, so we wanted it to feel like one of those cute bungalows that you would see in the bylanes of Bandra.
Yeah.
When it came to Palladium and BKC, we were in malls, so it had to be a little more swanky, a little more restaurant-like. The spaces were bigger
Sure.
as well. It allowed us a larger menu, more restaurant feel, a bar. So we had to kind of, edit as we went. And that's what we've always believed, that it doesn't have to be typically a key cutter model, because we're not really in a QSR space.
Sure.
Or, we are about maybe a personalization, trying to make things special, having that touch, whether it's on design or the food or whatever, which we want people to feel when they are in each space. They should feel it.
Sure.
Feel that it's reflective of the area that they're in.
Yes.
And so I always worked. Tejal Mathur has been our designer from the start for all the restaurants, and she's worked beautifully, with us on sort of conveying this message through each one of them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What about service? The service part of it and the team.
I think maybe that service is something
Please,
that is Sid's
Siddharth, if
very
you could,
passionate about. and
share
he's
what-
given really
Yeah,
a lot
What
of
you were
philosophy.
thinking when
So
you.
maybe we can.
Yeah, no. So look, we've always, when we've gone to restaurants, when we found that the service levels aren't what they should be, our philosophy has been offer 5-star service in a small little space, right? So, for example, quite often when I'm at a restaurant and I order something and then it's not really right, sometimes they're not very receptive to feedback.
Right.
They will charge you anyway. If I say I'm too full, maybe I've over-ordered and want to cancel something.
Yeah.
And they say, but sir, it's ready. So then if you feel pressure to then take it, although you're full.
Yeah.
So the philosophy that we always wanted to have, even though we got a really tiny space, is we wanted to try. It's not always easy, because training is not always as great as it could be. There is obviously attrition in the restaurant industry, but we try and train our staff to offer 5-star service, 7-star service in a small space. So if today, even if something's made in the kitchen, but last minute you want to cancel it, you just say, can we cancel it? They're not going to say, oh, sir, it's ready, and you won't feel the pressure.
Yeah.
You drop a glass of wine or you drop a drink, they're not going to be fussed about the cost. They're trained to come and bring you a replacement.
Okay.
No questions asked.
Nice.
If you don't like something, they have been trained to make sure they don't charge you for it. It doesn't matter.
That's great.
To our minds, a happy customer
Yes.
is going to come back and he's going to enjoy the food, talk about it positively. If I'm charging you for something that you haven't enjoyed, that's really not fair to our minds. So when we go to a restaurant, the way we like to get treated is how we'd like to treat our customers.
Beautiful.
We're pretty finicky about small details, and hopefully it translates.
Yeah, and also what we acknowledge is that yes, we mess up at times. Sometimes food will be delayed, or someone could make an error and take in a wrong order, serve a wrong dish. But what we constantly try to train is that when something goes wrong, how you sort of address that, and what the customer
Old now, but yeah, that's okay.
what the customer is feeling when they leave is really, really critical. Because as much as we try, we're human beings, and there will be a day that something will be off, and a machine won't work, something will go wrong, someone makes an error. But it's how we correct those situations is also very, very important. And that's something that we constantly driven.
Sure.
And what happened, I think, is that when we started, both of us spent a lot of time here. In the initial days, and for me, I still come in almost every day of the week. And spending time with teams, especially in the beginning, in our founding team, I was here for the first 2 or 3 years, 7 days a week, almost like morning till night.
Sure.
And so they begin to reflect your philosophy. And I think that that's important, because sometimes you may say something, but when your team, if they worked in other places, and each restaurant has their own way of running a space, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's hard for them to judge or to forget, or sometimes people get nervous because they feel, I'm pumping this, but it might come back to me.
Sure.
So the more time you spend with your team, and then as we grow, obviously with the senior team, so that they can sort of filter down that same thought process. That's what we believe in, because automatically what you see is, what you're learning from. And that's something that as we've grown, and we can't physically be there at every place at all points in time, we try and kind of drill that philosophy and allot to the senior teams as well. Or, on a day that I'm at a restaurant, to people across the board.
Yeah, the most junior member of the staff at the service level is authorized to take a call on just making the whole week complimentary.
That's excellent. No, definitely. I've always believed in this philosophy that leadership is what happens in your absence.
Yes.
And the fact that you've been able to empower your team to this level, at the junior most level, as you said, that itself, allows them to take a call very much like an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I think that's a great culture that you've developed, very powerful thing that you've developed. So hats off to you on that. But speaking about the toughness of this industry, one of the things that I also look for in entrepreneurs is that they have not just the financial wherewithal, but also the emotional wherewithal. And you happen to be husband and wife. So how did you balance both your roles as life partners and as business partners?
Husband wants to
First
answer
husband.
Very interesting. I think we talk about this a lot.
Okay.
No, so look,
This is really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So look, she runs the business, right? So she's the operating, creative person behind the whole business. I come and eat. That's one of the things I do. In the beginning, when we started, I would serve tables, take orders, reservations, all of the good stuff, carry out plates, and it's all our business. So we weren't saying that this is not something that we would do.
Sure.
I'm sure there are people who may not want to actually take the orders and serve customers, but I felt like this was something that we have to be able to do ourselves. But eventually, frankly, I have my own business, and I couldn't spend a substantial amount of time on this business. So all I really end up doing is spending time on, say, strategic inputs, MIS reviews, financial reviews, business development, looking for new spots, tasting food, as I like to always admit. And then I stay off limits in terms of just giving inputs at a detail level. Oh, there's a bad Zomato review.
Yeah.
So what are we doing about that? Sometimes I do that and I get a pushback.
Tremendous wisdom in that. How do you feel about this balance, Annie? Could you share?
I think it's great because our personalities around this kind of complement everything. He is I think the business without either one of us and what we bring to the table would not be what it is.
Yes.
And while he is sort of downplaying the fact that he does just this bit, what he does is a large part of it. So for me, I will take many decisions which are more out of passion or how I want it to be, etc., etc. And in that, sometimes I could lose the bigger picture, or I am as a person very risk averse. And so, if left to me, honestly, I would still be sitting with this one store very happily on my table with my morning coffee, reading my book, and I would be very content, right?
Yeah.
So, with Sid, I have this push behind me, and it started, like I said, from the time we decided, we should start. That the push began from then. That it encouraged me to take that step. When this was settled, he encouraged me to think about what next. And really, the business and the finance mind really resides in this part.
I understand.
And while initially, of course, we will have arguments, we will debate things, but we have also learned over the years that no matter what it is, we both realize and we respect that each one's outlook has been what has brought this to where it is.
Absolutely.
Right? And also, like he said, the demarcation of this is exactly what I'm doing, and he will not even come in and say, why is this plated like this, or why is this like this? I mean, he just knows that it's not his thing, it's not his forte. It's, he eats something, and I appreciate his sort of tasting feedback.
Yeah.
But he will not, unless I ask him, I need your help and do this, do it. And similarly, what he does, I know that I will just go to him if there is anything in terms of, finance decision, strategy, what should we do next?
Yes.
And while I did finance for those 10 years, I honestly did not enjoy it. It's not in my blood. And so for me, it's very clear that this, I just push it that way, and it's a relief for me.
No, I understand from my interaction with him. I know he could be a very calming kind of person and very objective in his thinking. So,
objectivity is actually a very important thing that you say, because he's always seeing it more from the outside than me.
Yes.
And that is a huge advantage, I think.
Absolutely.
Because he knows me and inherently how I am. But he is seeing it as an outsider, with a professional lens as well. And that brings in a lot of balance.
I will say that it obviously also has its off days when we will find ourselves consumed by work.
Yeah.
And we're only when we're supposed to have recreational time.
Yes.
Like she will why are we talking about work all the time?
Yeah.
Which is bound to happen when you're involved in the same business, and there are things that you need to pay attention to, but when you catch yourself, in your recreational sort of time talking shop, and that's not always good,
true,
and healthy, but we found a way to balance that out as well over a period of time. So
Sure. No, that's great that you managed to maintain this balance. So, what's the future of the company? What are you looking at in terms of further how it's going to go?
No, look, I think left to my own devices, we probably would have tried to grow faster, and we certainly should be growing faster. But really, it's in my head, her baby, and I found myself concluding that I don't want to live my dreams through her. And she needs to grow at her pace in a way that she's comfortable.
Yes.
And growing too fast in a business like this sometimes compromises quality. If you're just looking at the numbers, you're not going to be able to adapt as fast if you have 20 restaurants to the taste buds of a specific location.
Absolutely.
In Delhi, as you might have if you had 5 restaurants in Bombay with different palates across the city.
Sure.
So I don't think growing too fast is healthy for this business in general.
100%.
Right. So that said, I think she has to determine when she's ready to grow, when the team is ready to grow. Because it's very easy for me to sit outside and say, look, we should grow. Yeah. But then there are operational challenges that she is more privy to than I am, right? So therefore, I think she needs to take the call. Like I said, I think we should grow sensibly.
Yes.
And so far, we're not yet looking to go outside the city. I think Bombay has space for a few more Nutcrackers and Noahs. We may as well exhaust that capacity and then think about the next step. So, and there's no rush. We're not playing the valuation game. We never were.
Yes.
This started out as a passion project, right? And it did well economically. And so it made sense to grow. We've got a good sized team now, which takes some of the pressure off her,
Yes.
of me. And so we have the potential to grow, but there's no rush.
I think there's tremendous wisdom in this choice that you've made. In fact, I think you've heard and I have heard enough people saying, I want to have 50 outlets in the next 3 years, and they have no connect with the guests
Yes.
in that catchment area.
Yes.
They're just growing and growing,
Yeah.
and they're just looking at their numbers. And that's amazing coming from people who have a background in numbers, that you're looking at the food, you're looking at the experience, you're looking at the needs of your guest, and you're looking at a balance between the commerce and the heart.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's really wonderful and very refreshing to hear, because I've heard enough of those. I'm sure you have heard
Oh,
as many of that. But really so wonderful to chat with you all and learn about your brands, both Nutcracker and Noah. And I wish you both all the very best in your growth.
Thank you.
And
Your book?
thank
Yeah, I'm
you.
sure it's a great book.
I
And
picked up that line in our conversation when you said leadership is what happens when you're not around, and I was going to ask you then, that is that in the book? Because
no, that's not in the book. That's just in my head. There's so many more things, so there's probably many more things
But it's such a strong
to share.
line, right? That
Yeah.
maybe next book.
Yeah.
And I think this is the sort of book which I think a lot of people would want to lay their hands
Yeah.
on. And because
Yeah.
when we started, I don't think we found something like this.
Sure.
We didn't read any such books. To
Yeah.
the rest of, I think
Yeah.
we watched a lot of shows. We read
Shows,
a lot of
generic
recipes.
stuff,
But
yeah.
thankfully, we have a little bit of the accounting, finance sort of background. So,
Yeah.
but I
Yes.
think I'm sure you've covered a lot of the financial
Yes.
modeling, business plan,
Yeah.
I have.
kind of stuff in the book, and I'm sure it'll help a lot of the readers. So,
Yes, and
good
that's
luck to
that's
you.
the goal for me as well.
Congratulations and
So
all the best.
thanks to you
Thank
both.
you.
Wonderful
Really, our
to be
pleasure.
here. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.